Emergency pod presented by friends over at Xfinity. This is going to be a controversial emergency pod, I think, just based on how people have talked about J.K. Dobbins over the past couple of hours. Broncos don't get Kenneth Walker. They don't get Travis Etienne, but J.K. Dobbins is back on a 2-year deal. Seems like we might be due for another meltdown, Zach. What do you think?
I absolutely love it. I love it. And, what I've been saying over the past couple of weeks is that J.K. Dobbins was in the mix for the Broncos this entire time. They love him as a player. They love him as a person. They love him as a leader. They love him as a mentor. And especially for what this price is going to be, Henry, that this was probably my number one move when it comes to the running back position. And I've been saying it for the past week as well. It's not just revisionist history. So I love this move. Obviously, there's the caveat of health, and it's just going to be there with JK. But when he's healthy, Broncos have one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. And just look, he's not only a great player, he fits this offense perfectly. And clearly Davis Webb won in here. Sean Payton loved him, and George Payton loves him as well. I just keep going back to the end of season press conference that George Payton and Sean Payton had. And both of them individually went out of their way to say how big of a loss J.K. Dobbins was when he got hurt after the Week 10 game. And they both just could not harp on it enough, how much his leadership was missing, how much he was missing on the field. And to be ordered to get him back is just absolutely huge. And obviously the Broncos, they're going to have a backup plan to go along with RJ Harvey, because J.K. Dobbins has been injured every single year that he's played in the NFL. But Henry, you just don't find running backs this talented very often at all. And so when healthy, he's a better player than Travis Etienne. He's a better player than Kenneth Walker. And I know that when healthy is a big caveat, but man, the Broncos make it to the Super Bowl even without Bo Nix when he still gets hurt if J.K. Dobbins is back. If J.K. Dobbins played in the AFC Championship game, they win that game. If he's there for the Super Bowl, it's probably a close game. Even without Bo Nix, he is that impactful of a player. So personally, I absolutely love it. No meltdown here.
Yeah, well, good. But we don't go to you for the meltdowns. Those are pretty rare. Something has to go really wrong for Zach to melt down. I've been back and forth all offseason. At the end of the season, I was saying you can't bring JK back. Like you have to learn your lesson. And at this point, the lesson has been the same every year. JK just doesn't have a full season in him. And some of it's fluky for sure, but the track record's the track record. And for that reason, I don't think anybody is going into this season other than maybe JK thinking we're going to have JK at the start of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year, because that's just, there's too much history there. But as this offseason's kind of progressed, like you said, I mean, especially at this point, there's no running back on the market who's close to as talented as JK. You hear about like Rico Dowdle or I don't even know who else would be up next after that. JK is just in a different tier than those guys. And I agree. I mean, he's a better football player than Breece Hall. He's a better football player than Kenneth Walker. And he's a better football player than Travis Etienne. And I don't, numbers wise, at least, there's just no argument against that. Like, he's incredibly effective when healthy. He's incredibly efficient when he's healthy. And I think we saw just how important he was to the offense last year, because when they finally got going, kind of that October stretch, you realize that he's just such a big part of what he's doing, and the chemistry he built with the offensive line, the patience, there is something there. And I think if we lived in an alternate universe where we just knew J.K. Dobbins was going to play the whole season, I think the Broncos go from a middle of the pack rushing attack to a top 10 rushing attack pretty easily. When you look at the totals last year, they were 200 yards away from the top 5. I think that's very much in play. At the same time, though, I just can't sit here and say I expect JK to be there when the Broncos are playing big games in December and January, as much as I hope he does, and how much I think that would change what the Broncos are capable of this season. But eventually you just hit a spot where you could either overpay for Kenneth Walker like the Chiefs did. You could way overpay to Travis Etienne, try to get him to come to Denver instead of going back to his home in Louisiana. But you just were kind of stuck. And then the trade market for running backs isn't obvious. There aren't a bunch of candidates there. So I think at this point, it was absolutely the right move. I think once Etienne and Kenneth Walker were off the board, you just didn't really have any other option other than to bring back the guy who, hey, who knows what he's giving you, or how many weeks he's giving you. But when he's on the field, you trust that with the chemistry he had with this offensive line, he's going to help you win football games. You just really hope he's helping you win 12 football games or even 13 football games instead of 3 or 4 or 5 football games. And that's the risk when you sign a guy like JK.
Well, let's look at big picture and small picture in terms of the player J.K. Dobbins is. Henry J.K. Dobbins, I believe, has the third best yards per carry average in NFL history if he hits his certain minimum requirement. Averages over 5 yards per carry in his entire NFL career. Okay, that's a big picture. He's a fantastic player when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Small picture, let's just look at what he did with the Broncos, this exact team that he's going to be back with this year. When he signed with them last year, he ran for 5 yards per carry, which is incredible. Right before he got hurt, he was the third leading rusher in the NFL, only behind, at that point, MVP candidate Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, who ended up leading the league in rushing with, I believe, 15 or 1,600. He was on pace for 1,400 yards last year. And if you look at the 10 games, man, are they impressive. The worst game he had last year was 2.9 yards per carry, 40 yards on 14 rushes. That was in the Broncos win against the Jets. And that was the only underwhelming game he had. The only one. His second, he was just phenomenal outside of that. Let me read you how he finished his season in week from that point on, that Jets game on. There were 4 other games before he got hurt from a hip drop tackle, by the way, in that Raiders game. He got hurt, or he got 81 yards the next game, 111 rushing yards, 61 rushing yards, 77 rushing yards. That was on 5.8 yards per carry, 7.4 yards per carry, 4.1 yards per carry, and 4.3 yards per carry. J.K. Dobbins is a phenomenal football player. The Broncos went 8-2 with J.K. Dobbins last year, including that 7-game win streak before he got hurt there. And another thing with this is, especially with the other names that you mentioned, Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne, which the Broncos had at least varying degrees of interest with, he fits RJ Harvey extremely well. We saw that last year. RJ Harvey now gets to truly be that joker role for the Broncos. And man, we saw RJ nearing that second half of JK's 10 games when he was really put in that role. We saw RJ start to absolutely succeed in that role. And then, yeah, he struggled at times as the every down runner once JK got hurt. He's not going to be asked to do that anymore. JK is your first and second down back. RJ is going to get a little bit of that, but he's going to be your third down joker type of back. And that is just a match made in heaven between those two right there. So it's really going to not just help having JK back, but having JK back's really going to help RJ as well in that role. So I love this move. I've been saying it for over a week. That is probably my favorite move the Broncos can make when it comes to the running back position. You do have to have a backup plan, and that backup plan is going to revolve around RJ Harvey. At the end of the season, maybe it was at the Combine, George Payton said he still believes RJ Harvey can be a 3-down back. Well, now he just gets a couple more years to learn under JK to become that back. And at this point, he gets to be the joker back. So what do the Broncos do now? They still need to add a really good third running back, and they're going to do that in the draft or in free agency. There's still some guys that they could sign, like the Brian Robinson Juniors of the world, that they could go out there. Or you're looking at, round 3, round 4 of the draft to add here. You are no longer desperate entering the draft at the running back position, and that's a spot that you absolutely have to be. In fact, I don't think the Broncos actually have a need at running back anymore. J.K. Dobbins, man, he is a hell of a player.
Yeah, and to me, again, I think that week 1 this year, you're going to be a better football team than if you had Breece Hall on your team. Like, and again, like you look through every single number, whether it's efficiency, the before, like J.K. Dobbins has proven that he is a better running back than anybody you had the option to get. Again, of course, with J.K., all that matters is the health. And that's why I like this move as long as you don't just make your plan to hope that he's playing late in the season. That's the only way that you could really kill this situation. And I don't think you need to fill that now. Like, I don't think you need to go get a third running back or draft a guy. Again, there's an opportunity to draft a guy, go right ahead and go find him. But to me, I'm circling the trade deadline. I think that's your opportunity. And part of what killed the Broncos last year is that JK got hurt. What was it? 3 days, 4 days, 5 days after the trade deadline, which meant that they weren't able to go and replace him. That can't be the situation. If all goes perfectly well, and once again, JK is on pace for over 1,300 yards when you get there, then you still trade a 3rd or 4th round pick and go get like a David Montgomery. Like, you go get a starting running back type of player to be your insurance in case something happens down the stretch. And that's a baseline. And if something does happen, whether JK is not as efficient or if he actually does get hurt, then you're in the market to go and go after a superstar at the trade deadline, because that's when you're going to have more opportunities to go get a running back. You know, this year, I don't know the whole list, but Achane's going to be a free agent after this year. Jonathan Taylor is going to be a free agent. Breece Hall, once again, will be a free agent after this year. Could you make a move at that deadline to go get a superstar if the worst case scenario hits and find your sub then? Because that's how I view this, is you have that opportunity when you're going to just have more options than you do now. Because at this point, you could have gone and gotten Rico Dowdle. That's a significant step back from healthy J.K. Dobbins. Now, it's better than a J.K. Dobbins who isn't on the field. But I think that as long as they don't use this signing as a way to say we're set at running back, and we like what we have throughout the entire season, I'm fine with it. Because as a total baseline, you need to go get a guy who you trust to start games at the trade deadline as insurance. And that's the baseline. There might wind up being a situation where the door's open to make a big splash move.
Well, they are going to add another person to that room. And man, I've acknowledged the chat right now because people are absolutely crushing me for how much I like this move, and people saying that I'm spinning this. I was saying this exact same thing last week before the Broncos made this move. So I've always been on the JK bandwagon. So maybe that's why I like him more. I'm not spinning it for what has or hasn't happened today. The Broncos were in on Travis Etienne. I'm not quite sure how much they were in on Kenneth Walker, but they certainly wanted, at least were interested in Travis Etienne, and they missed out on him. And to me personally, I think JK is a better player. And look, JK is 27 years old. There's no doubt about the injury history, but man, does he have a lot left in the tank right now. And that's why the Broncos didn't just give him a 1-year deal. They gave him a 2-year deal. We're still waiting on terms to come out right there and to see exactly where this places. But I mean, the expectation's probably around $4 million per season. That's what I've been saying for over a week now. And if you get that from him, man, you look last year, 10 games. You hope you get more than that. But this is I like the move. I like it a lot. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that brings so much juice to the season or to a team. That's exactly what J.K. Dobbins does. So once the Broncos did not get Travis Etienne, man, to me, it was all eyes on J.K. Dobbins. And I talked to someone last week and essentially inside the building. And essentially they said, man, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, or J.K. Dobbins, and boom. They got one of them, and they got the one that's going to be on a much better deal. And again, just to reiterate how much he means, not just on the field, but off the field, and also in the locker room as a leader, as a mentor. He's going to help RJ a lot. So I think this is a really good signing. And of course, you also have to take money into account when you talk about signings. You can't just say it's blind without the contract. The Broncos probably got the best deal for a running back, of anyone in free agency, because free agency is all about overpaying. And, unfortunately for JK, but fortunately for how the way this contract's probably going to look, this is a great deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And the scary part is it's just, are you getting 8 games out of him? And again, if you get 8 games out of him, and he does what he did last year, this is still a good deal. But you just have to be very prepared to go and make the next deal to find somebody at the trade deadline when there's always options available, or if he gets hurt, whatever it may be. But hope can't be the only answer. I think we're going to get our guy Bennie Fowler on here to get some quick takes. Are you going to hop off, Zach? Do you have any final thoughts if you are?
Yeah. Yep, I'll hop
Save
off.
that voice a little bit for the next one.
People don't want to hear that this is a good signing, which is crazy. I mean, just
they
wait till,
decided
till
yesterday.
he's back. Just wait till he's back on the field, rushing for 76 yards, 83 yards, 101 yards, 79 yards. That's a 4-game stretch that JK had at the beginning of last season. Or how about this stretch that he ended with 81 yards, 111 yards, 61 yards, 77 yards on 5 yards per carry for the entire season. 3rd leading rusher shortly before he got injured for the rest of the season. And man, he's got a lot of heart. And I personally love it. And again, I've loved it for the possibility of it for over a week now. So there's no coping going on here. Welcome back, JK.
Yep. Any before you get out here, any other moves you think we should expect over the next? Before we see you for the show tomorrow.
Well, linebacker position. What are the Broncos going to do with Alex Singleton? Will they be able to get to an agreement with him today? Additionally, Devin Lloyd is still out there right now. So I think those are the 2 names that we need to be keeping our eye on. The Broncos have made their move at running back. Again, there will be another move, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in the draft. They are going to get another running back for this room, whether it's a significant signing, whether it's a depth piece, we will see that. And then so it goes to the linebacker spot. We obviously did see John Franklin Myers leave. He officially signed with the Tennessee Titans, 3 years, $63 million. He gets that massive, massive, massive payday that we were expecting here and that the Broncos were expecting. That's why, they didn't really have any offers for him, is because they just knew that he was going to be more valuable than them. So bummer to lose JFM, but expect the Broncos to make a move at inside linebacker.
Yeah. Not sure if we've got Bennie in here yet, but I agree. It's a shame to see JFM go, but we had resigned ourselves to that. And now after you save a little bit of money going with JK instead of the other guys, you wonder if they wind up trying to make a move for a Devin Lloyd or a big splash like that, because they're going to have the money to do it. Let's see. I'm not seeing Bennie in here. We might say Bennie for the next show. Hopefully we get a little more news today. Hopefully some news that everybody enjoys. We'll see about that. And if we don't wind up getting another deal in today, we'll be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. talking. Oh, there's Bennie right there. Oh, just in time. Bennie, we got a couple minutes. If you want to get out here, save your voice, feel free. Zach, if you want to hang around, see what Bennie says, feel free. But Bennie, what do you think of the deal?
I think it's interesting. Do we know the terms yet? I mean, we know 2 years.
Nope,
do we know
still waiting on the number. Zach was hinting at it being a little bit smaller, but nothing official.
Splash at the running back position, and Broncos were excited about that. I think one of the things that's really important, I saw Zach tweeted out, is how incredible of a leader J.K. Dobbins is, the type of swagger that he brought to the offense. So I think that's important. Look, somebody who knows the offense, there's not going to be a learning curve there. Somebody who can pick up blitzes and pass protection, as Hank, as you pointed out, and somebody who was on his way to having a really good year. I think the one thing that you really are concerned about is just the injuries, and it's always going to be scary. But hey, if he can stay healthy, and maybe with a full off season with Bo Lowry and the team, and just the comfort level, maybe it is better. But that's just one thing you worry about is the injuries. But his vision, and hopefully the contract, it lines up for them to still make some other signings. But at the end of the day, somebody who's a great culture fit, somebody who did extremely well, getting signed right before the offseason, and somebody who fits into your locker room, and somebody who has and played extremely well when he was on the field last year.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people saying, what are the yards per game worth? What's that efficiency worth when we don't think he's going to be here for the playoffs? 90% of me agrees with you. But at the same time, part of the reason the Broncos were able to make it to the AFC Championship game, a big part really, is that they were able to get the number 1 seed. The first step of winning a Super Bowl is winning your own division. Yeah. And we've seen over and over again, if you don't win your division, you're just not going to win a Super Bowl. I think there have been 3 wild card teams, maybe only 2 that have won a Super Bowl this century. Step 1 is getting back to the point where you were last year. You don't just get to assume, hey, we're going to be in the playoffs. I mean, the past decade, 9 of the 20 teams that made the Super Bowl missed the playoffs. Or no, sorry, 9 of the 20 number 1 seeds missed the playoffs the following year. And so by the numbers you say, either the Seahawks or the Broncos, odds aren't even going to get in. So I totally agree. Like, getting the playoffs and having a running back who's capable of doing something is very important. It's also true that even if worst case scenario, JK only gives you 5 games, 8 games, whatever it is, at least you got him for those. And to me, this is a situation where you can't feel set at running back. If there's an opportunity to get one now, you do it. But like I told Zach, I'm keeping an eye on the trade deadline. Even if JK is healthy and looking good, a 3rd round pick to go get a guy who's worthy of being a starter as insurance, go do it. And if JK is not doing well, or he's hurt, whatever it may be, that's where you blow. If you want to tell me a 1st round pick to go get a superstar running back because you need somebody to plug in, you can do that, because the options to make moves like that will be so much more available at that point than they are at this point.
Yeah, I think, I agree with everything that you're saying. And at this point in time right now, the Broncos don't play a game for another 6 months. So he's got time to be healthy. He's got time to, just get his body right. That's the most important thing, is how does he get his body right? And, how do we get him to the 14, 15 games? Like, even if he does miss a few, we just don't want it to be season ending.
Right. I know. If you could even just tell me, like, whatever, he's got the first 8 games of the year and he's back for whatever week 18 and on, good enough for me. But that's the question, is there's a chance that we'll throw $5 million out there. If he's getting $5 million this year, there's a chance you're paying $5 million for 5 games. And then you're saying, not a great deal. Honestly, not a terrible deal when you look at what running backs, like that Kenneth Walker deal, for example, but there's a chance that you get 15 games for that $5 million, and it all comes down to that. Real quick, before we start to wrap it up here, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Xfinity. These emergency pods, they're brought to you by Xfinity. They make all of this possible. We're doing one today, obviously, for JK. Hopefully we'll have a couple more this afternoon with some exciting moves. If not, we'll have them out throughout the week, up until the draft. Hopefully I could keep signing free agents. So shout out to Xfinity. They've got a 5-year price guarantee if you want to switch. They'd have no annual contracts, no hidden fees. You get all their best equipment. It's intelligent Wi-Fi, so that if you've got a bunch of devices connected, like right now, I'm streaming the Rockies game on the other TV. But it'll just know this is more important. So it powers your Wi-Fi to come this way. Lock in your price, unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply. All right. I've talked a lot, but Bennie, any thoughts here as we wrap this up?
No, hey, look, it wasn't the splash that we thought, it was going to be. And I think we put expectations out there because the Broncos are so close and were so close last year. But at the end of the day, bringing back somebody like JK, bringing back some of the players that were integral pieces in terms of your culture, I think is a good thing. So, look, it's just the first day.
Just the first day. A lot more to come. It's only the first 4 hours is what it is. Right. There's going to be a lot more on the way. Thanks, Bennie, for jumping on here. Shout out to Dion for producing and being on call all week as these keep going. Hopefully we'll see you guys later tonight. If not, 11 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be back to dig even deeper into J.K. Dobbins and everything else that's going on across the NFL. One more shout out. Thanks to Xfinity for setting all this up for us. Xfinity, imagine that, and we'll see you guys later.
Peace.
We all city like the mayor.